things off and just like to welcome everyone for joining us today for our webinar, Grants in Your Community on Housing. My name is Jeff Henwood. I'm the Senior Director of Policy and Advocacy with ABmunis. Joined here with David Kincade, and I'll be happy to moderate the chat and the Q&A today. Before we begin, I'd like to highlight that in addition to these webinars, we have teamed up with Alberta Business Grants to bring you the latest information on available grants via a weekly newsletter. You can sign up for the Grant Gazette by visiting abmunis.ca, clicking on Joint Programs, and then Municipal and Not-for-Profit Grants. So I'll now get ready to turn the floor over to David Kincade, the founder of Alberta Business Grants. David's background includes 13 or is it 14 years now, David, of being a successful grant writer, totaling a significant volume of wins. He's also the lead instructor for the Advanced Grant Writing course and the author of Golden Grant Rules, the ultimate guide for winning government grants. So with that, I'll turn the floor over to you, David.
Jeff, thank you very much for that warm introduction. And also, thank you everybody for coming today. Hopefully, you've got a bite to eat with you and you can kick back and enjoy today. We've got a couple of administrative tasks that we would like to get started with. We do a poll just to kind of help us understand your needs and also report to the government on our projects. It's pretty good. So I'm going to launch a poll right now. It's just a 2-question poll. You should see it right now. Just lets us know where you're from and your grant level experience. That really helps me know, who I'm talking to. So that would be very helpful if you don't mind doing that. Let's let that roll and then we'll share the results with you. This thing's pretty slick. Oh, this is interesting. Anyone else you can say anything? Let's leave another 5 seconds there. There's a few of you left. Okie dokie. I will end the poll and then I will share the results. So it looks like we have, wow, over half of you have less than a year, another 14% under 2, and then I don't know, the 5 people we've got, with 6+ experience. Thank you for being here for today. I hope that you get some value. We're going to focus on the sort of people under 2, but I've got a few nuggets for you because you know how much I respect you coming out. Can you see that, Jeff? Okay, just by a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for doing that. Okie dokie. So what we're going to do today is something a bit different. It's going to be more of, I'm going to go through a working draft document. Those of you that have gone to our previous webinars, I did one like this before and you seem to like it. So it felt like the right format. So unlike a traditional webinar where there's PowerPoints and slides, I had one of those. I was like, that's boring. I want to make it more interesting. So we're going to go through a document. Jeff's going to put it in the link if you don't see it already. These are all downloaded. This will be recorded as well. And I really encourage you to just get engaged in this webinar. So I'm going to put the chat up on the side here. So we're going to go through 12 points, and then I'll let you get on your busy day. But I hope that you get some value from all the work that's gone into this. So with that, let's get started. Jeff, just give me maybe a thumbs up. You can see this okay?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to give everyone a little overview. I'm calling this a working draft because I'm handing it over to you. I've built 19 pages here, and then I'm going to hand it over to you. We'll also have a fact sheet that looks like this. I'm going to talk to you in a minute. This is a reference document, and then this will be a list of grants. Those of you that attend our webinars around December, we do a list, and so we have a housing list of grants. In our veterans, these are your main ones, right? This one, these 3 are currently open right now, the bill or soon to be open, these 3. And then the one at CMHC is this one, the Apartment Construction Loan Program. But I recognize there's a lot of other grants in there, and I'm going to get into this in a moment. But those tools are there for you, and you can download. So really right now, I'd just like you to kind of have the chat available, and we're going to go through something that looks like this. I had turned this here into like a nice PowerPoint, but as I thought about how I was going to teach you today, it's really good that a lot of you have less than 2 years experience, because I'm going to set the stage of what we're going to do here. And by the way, Jeff gave a nice introduction, but just to kind of give you some context. So I have a master's degree in politics. a I've worked at the Alberta Legislature for 4 years. I've been writing grants professionally since 2012. I've authored a book. I teach this big class on grant writing called the Advanced Grant Writing course. So my whole life has been around, working life has been around, government and business and money. So for this exercise, what I did is I just said, okay, I'm a new grant writer. I have less than like a year, 1 to 2 years experience. So that's almost like 70% of you or something like that on this call. And I'm overwhelmed and I'm overworked. Can I get a witness? And I'm responsible for writing grants, and now housing is a big issue in my community, and I'm expected to write these grants. So I'm going to, in this webinar, you can wish me luck. Watch the chat here. Hopefully you're not laughing. I'm going to pretend I'm in your shoes. And the veterans, there's like, 5 or 6 veterans on here. You are welcome to help these people out along the way. Hopefully we've got some nuggets for you too. But you may not agree with all the things I'm going to do. You may not agree with the process that I do it. But I think this is how I would do it if I was you and I was put in your shoes. So this is set up with, I'm just trying to give you an example, but if you were going to build a deck on your home or something and you weren't sure what to do, and you hired a carpenter who'd been building decks for 20 years to come over and just to give you some ideas and how they would approach it, where they'd put it and how high and all that type of stuff. And you give you good ideas before you sort of make the decision to build this deck. That's what's happening right now. So I'm going to be this person that kind of comes in and says to your little village or town or wherever you are right now and say, this is how I think about things. This is how I would approach it if I was going to win. In the chat, are you with me okay over here? All right. I'm assuming you are. I don't see one person following along, but hopefully you're with me and you can kind of get it. So I'm going to show you the steps of the process I would take about winning house money. Now, the very first thing I would probably feel is emotionally panic. I'd feel overwhelmed. I think I'm not capable, feel frustrated because my elected officials think it's easy, even though most of them have never written a grant before. And I think it's just, I wanted to acknowledge that. Like I put this in after, but I think like I do a lot of grants, and these housing grants are big grants and complex and estimates, and they're political. Like these are very serious. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, it reminded me of a good quote, and I'm just going to share it with you right here. Stand by. Sound is on. Sharing. Here we go. And it is this quote here.
Stress doesn't come from hard work. Stress primarily comes from not taking action over something that you can have some control over. Stress doesn't come from...
And I play that video because you're going to feel stress and you've got to take a step forward. And a really good quote I have is, it would be difficult to name a more destructive human habit than that of procrastination. Putting off until tomorrow that which should have been done last week. Personal initiative is the only cure for procrastination. So acknowledge you're going under do this large project, but you've got to take a start. And it's pretty serious, right? Like these things, you can be delayed and then you end up with a vague application. So I just wanted to let you know it's perfectly normal. You're new at this. It's a big project. You may not have a lot of experience. In fact, I know you don't have a lot of experience because I've just asked you. And that's okay. You can take a step forward, and that's the first thing. It's not like grants are not like, say, back in your writing paper days where you could do it the night before, especially these ones. Like the one that's open right now, they want what they call a C estimate, which is like more detailed. So like you just can't do this at the last minute. So it's very, very important that you get confident, you say you can do it, and you move forward. Let's move on to the second thing I would do. Once I kind of got over that, I would think for myself, and I think this is really, really important, okay? And they're pretty serious. You're gonna have a lot of people saying a lot of different things. It's gonna be contentious, but it's like, okay. So my job, I would say, is to control what I can control, because these are political hot potatoes with people. You're seeing, I'm sure some of you are seeing it. I don't know if we've got Red Deer in the house, but zoning, it's controversial. A lot of public pressure. So I would begin with saying, who can help me? If I'm the only person doing this, or I have a small team, maybe one other person, but primarily me, I would start to build a list of who can help me. And one of the first people I think about is my MLA. And you might say, well, why is that? Well, one of the great resources we have in this province is the legislature library, and there's their email right there. In fact, I'm going to drop that in the chat right now. This is the library in the legislature where they have people working. And look so I emailed them. I said, hi, could you please pull me news articles on municipalities across the country who lost the Housing Accelerator Fund? I'm looking for where they lost and people were upset and complaining. Give me 5 articles. They send me back a list of articles, but they also say, they have licensing agreements, and so they need clients with assembly email addresses. However, we have some public stuff. Now, what I would suggest you do, again, if my MLA, especially the constituency manager, was on my team, if I didn't have a relationship, I would try to have a relationship with them and say, look, we're working on a housing project. The Ledge Library, if it comes from a Ledge Library address, they'll really give it a lot of attention. Can you help us? And I might even help write the prompt. And they will go and they will build you a tremendous document of research, of information all around housing. And again, that's wonderful. It's free, and they'd build it. Now, the second thing that I would do is, I'm sure some of you are starting to use AI. And so I want to show you how I used it in this case. So I went over here, and again, you have all this. Don't worry about that. But I asked, working with Claude, I have someone who took my class who's loves AI, and I hired her, and I said, hey, listen, I'm building a presentation for grant writers at municipalities. I want to save them 10, 20 hours of research. Can you build me a fact sheet, like a housing fact sheet? And this is what came about, and it's quite good. So it was built, shows the different things, talks about the immediate action, and it gives you all kinds of like reminders of things that happen. I'm just going to kind of show you this at a high level, but check this out. It goes like how to use this document, and then it's broken into sections: stats, province, feds, stacking, statistics, stacking guidelines when you can put 2 grants together, key dates, policy updates, and a quick reference. And then there's tips along the way that go here, but I think this is really cool. So your first one, you get into your stats on your population, and then you come down here, you got your provincial program. It says when it's expected to open next. And then this is your federal program that just came out. This one's now closed. This one is open. And then this one's closed. This is an agreement you're probably seeing. This is the old agreement. They're currently working on building a new, or signing a new agreement on housing. And then you'll get into stacking. It'll explain this. So this is all done for me, right? So this is, if you're using AI and you have this fact sheet getting built, this is, imagine how much time this would physically take you to do. Key dates. And I love this section. This was policy updates. Jeff and I were talking about this one. So it talks about when it's launched, talks about things that are moving around in this space. Red Deer had this potential cancellation that they're going through right now. Key dates around, or key policies around signing. Canmore did a vacancy tax. If you weren't there, they were going to charge you more. And then the province stepped in, and now it's like, might be people who just don't live in the province. So it's good to get this scan of what's going on, and then a quick reference of the programs. And then I've got tips from the field, right? Local need, partnerships. It built all this. I'm going to show you one thing. So when I got here, I was like, okay, where did this come from? I wanted to just show you something kind of cool. Common mistakes. So then working with Betty Lynn, I said, Betty Lynn, I want verification of stats. So then we got this. Check this out. It's the verification. So we've got Claude to verify where all this information came from. And I actually like this because it's almost like your mini library, right? So all this information you can find, and they've got great resources from CMHC, CBC, Stats Canada. Look at this, Open Alberta Publications. I mean, goodness gracious, how long would it take you? Seniors Home Repair, and on it goes. Then it's got legislative context. Anyways, you have access to this. I thought general housing stats, like ATB. So I thought this was pretty cool. And again, if I'm a solo operator and I need, I've got limited resources, that's something I'm working on. So you could see that okay, right? You can just throw it in the chat, say you saw it. Okay, that would be great. Sometimes it's weird talking to myself. I mean, I usually talk to myself all the time, but when there's a bunch of people walking, you're like, you can hear okay, right? Okay, thanks, Jeff. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Tara. So then the next thing I would do, and I'll show you here in just a minute, but I would pull this, and then I would look at like AB grant resources. So you might not know this, but check this out. Like, these are just things that I have. So if you go here and you go here, you should see Alberta. And I can go, so this is part of what you get as a member of ABmunis. And you click on municipalities. Boom. I'm like, this just helps me track deadlines. And this is not an easy thing to do. I mean, you can see all these grants here, like by yourself, this would be hard. But even me doing this, I'm a researcher. But now with AI, I'm able to track deadlines basically every week, every change. So we're launching something actually this Thursday that makes this even more accurate. But look at, these are all grants that you're eligible for. And I'll put in that document, I'll just show you how it is now. But if you go here, if you're not taking this, you go sign up here and you go here. It's free for ABmuni members. And you just enter your discount code there, and then you'll get signed up for that. And that code is, here, I'll just give it to you right now, just so you've got it. It is, apologize for moving. I don't want to move it too fast for you, but it is right there. So there you go, ABmuni members. You can take that. Did that say Alberta? No, it didn't. Hold on. Hey, there you go. I'm going to go back here for a minute. The other thing you have at your disposal, this is all part of this program, just in case you don't know, but you come here, you go Muni, and you go Alberta, and you can search it as well there. So there's over 308 grants. These, and they'll go through. And this is about to get even, like I say, better, thanks to AI, because this has been so manual. So I'm really grateful for that. So these are just tools. Again, I'm a new grant writer, and I've got that at my disposal, so I'm pretty happy. So I'm going to come back to this. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about Eleanor in a minute, but I kind of want to know who the MP is, especially in Carney's cabinet representing Alberta, and that's Eleanor Osensky, and I'll talk about her in a minute. So again, this is sort of me just thinking for myself, getting the lay of the land, and of course, who's the minister provincially. And I just wanted to let you know, some of you on this call may have done it, but if you're interested in AI, this here is a webinar, free webinar coming up on it. I'll put that in the chat for you as well. And that might be, though, that'll be interesting for you. There's a course after if you want, and you type in ABmunis. It's like a 9-hour course on AI. It's $500, but if you put an ABmunis coupon, it's not this, a webinar, you can save $100 too. So just throw that in if that's something of interest you, just FYI. All right. So there is sort of my lay of the land. I'm thinking for myself. I'm using resources at my friend. Let's go on to number 3. And I put on here that I would walk, not run. Now, when I was early on in my career, it was all about speed, 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 running in the wrong direction, I'd like to say. And really, when you get into grants, you've got to think long term, because you're going to build up, you're going to write this grant, you're going to do the grant, you're going to submit the grant, they're going to process the grant, you may win or lose the grant, then you've got to do the project, meet all the obligations, and fix the paperwork. Like, it can be a long process. So you want to be walking, not running here. And I say in Big Little, I would force myself. So I've got these coupons, I've looked at the list of grants, and I would just try to keep it really, really simple, right? So I'm trying to find money, meet grant agencies, and write applications. Now, when I talk about meeting agencies, it could be like attending one of the webinars. Like I attended for this presentation, I attended one of the new federal government webinars. And there are a lot of municipalities on there. And the senior staff, of course, they're going to bring their senior staff on the webinar. And if they got a tough question, they would meet offline. Well, if you try to meet, one of the exercises I had was go on to this, Build Communities website and try to find a contact us number. You can't contact, like they have no phone number, no email. So you've really got to know the game you're getting into and say, okay, how can I win? Well, definitely signing up for their webinars is critical, and they're going to tell you the ins and outs. And that's what you want to do. Again, if I'm new, I want to know the size of the prize. You're going to find a lot of people, when you get something this complex, they want things easy, bite size. So I would be saying, yeah, we're going after a $3 million grant. And I'd want to have those high numbers very comfortable. The next thing I'd want to know is like, how competitive really is it? And thankfully, what government's really good at doing is doing strategies, giving you tips and tricks, but they're usually buried and you can't find them a bit. But I found that the accelerator fund, look at that. It was 540 applications, 241 signed, which I was like, not bad, because you got to figure probably 20% were rushed, right? Vague. So it's like, okay, not too bad. The other thing I want to know is the deadline really early on. I want to know this to see how much time I have to figure out my numbers before I write words. And I just want you to realize this. Figuring out, this is the work of grant writing. Like before you even get into writing the words, right? It's like, what am I going to write? And this is the work, especially in housing, is really, you got to do a lot of work. And I'm getting clarification on controversial matters. So this zoning is very hot topic. So I want to get that stuff sorted all before I even start writing. Big deal. Now, the next thing I'll do, and I strongly recommend you do this too, some of the veterans on here will recognize this, and that is I'll ask them for clarification. So I actually did all this. I wrote them and I put their responses in here. So with this new Build Community Strong Fund, I'm like, what is going on here? So I've got 2 questions. I wrote them. Can you help me understand the new relationship between this Build Community Strong Fund? Oh boy, I had a pasting issue here. Oh yeah, I said, can you tell me about the relationship? Is there a frequently asked questions document, press release? Like I was trying to figure out the relationship between CMHC, who is now in charge of affordable housing grants, CMHC, Build Community Strong Fund, or both? If you could get back to me. So that's what I wrote them, Because you'll find when you get into grants, you're like, oh my, especially this stuff, like who's in charge? They change names. There's a lot of like, if you're not on top of this almost weekly in this one, it's hard to follow. And look what they wrote. They said, hey, thanks for contacting us. The only available program that is open at CMHC at the moment is the apartment construction loan program, which I thought was interesting information in itself. For most of the other programs, CMHC has received sufficient applications to commit their budgets. And then it gets into the Build Canada Homes is Canada's new federal agency that will build affordable homes, support builders, da 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 da. They will focus primarily on this. Marc Antoine. So again, I'm just kind of walking. I'm like, oh, okay. So that helped me a lot when I got my head around that. And that's when I make sure I signed up for their webinar. And that's where I saw municipalities being able to connect with staff at these agencies. In fact, surprise, surprise, the staff here were former staff over there. It was good to know. So then I was signed up for their webinars, and they sent me, this is kind of what I wanted to show you today, pretty helpful stuff. Thank you for attending, and they gave me a bunch of details here. Their toolkit. There was their contact number, which I couldn't find on their website, but I got it through here by attending that, and even got a name. So I want to end this by takeaway number 2, which is, what does running look like? So running looks like this, everybody. You ready? It looks like, oops, apologize. You go here. It looks like, ask the city of Miramichi. They received, this is 2025. Miramichi is a city. They received $3 million from the Housing Accelerator Fund. Build more homes faster. There it is there. Big press release. They're happy. 13 months later, update on Housing Fund. Well, look at this. Read this right here. Not a good day. So then they lose it. So this is what I just wanted to say to you. Like, it looks like here's a good day at work, here's a bad day at work. But if you don't slow down, make sure you get all of these, your I's dotted, your T's crossed before you ever write. If you rush it, you like, grants go a long time. So this, I say this is a great day at work, and this is a really bad day at work. But do your best to control what you control, so that if you win it, you can deliver on it, okay? Now, step 4, I'll do a high-level environmental scan. I haven't even started writing yet. But I try to keep this in mind, that like, they won the election, or the province won the election. So it's quote unquote their money, right? It's our money, but I mean, they won the election. They have a platform, and they're going to distribute as they see fit. So like it or not, that's what's going down. So I always approach grants. It's not about me. It's about the grant agency's need. So I just want to read. I'll just spend a lot of time reading. You know, what is giving the minister a headache? How can I delight the minister? Who is Carney's minister for Alberta? And I find it's Eleanor Sensky. And I'm like, okay, she's an important stakeholder in this. You know, do I know her? She's also responsible for Prairie's Can, so she's all over the place. So she's coming through your town. So I'm like, is she invited? Have I invited her to just stop in for coffee to see what we're doing? You know, I would be all over that. What's going on? And I want to know who's winning and losing and why. And it's pretty quick. You can find out with a quick scan of this. So you'll look at this and you'll be like, all right, wow, this is a hot topic. The minister's involved. And then you'll see here, Canada's Housing defends a $10 million cut to housing. So there's a lot of political stuff. And then I found this brilliant quote, and this is something I think is going to save all of you, veterans included. This is a quote from the housing minister at the time. It's not personal. It's not a political decision. Now, you can believe that or not, but I'm going to take the minister at his word on this. I'm motivated by the desire to build as many homes as I possibly can with the resources that are at my disposal. And that's why you see some cities funded and others that will be unsuccessful. So for you grant writers out there that are new, this should be relieving for you, right? Because you could be, let's say, okay, then my job is I don't need to be a superhero. I just need to be able to tell my story in an accurate way and let the chips fall where they may fall. And you can go to bed at night saying, I did a good job. So this should really give you comfort. And I thought, bingo, this is my criteria. Now, one of the things I do, some of you might remember this. You ever hear of a SWOT analysis? But I'll start to build one as I'm reading all this stuff. So I'm gathering it, right? Starting to build a win card, which I'm going to talk. Strengths, internal, like I know my numbers, we're aligned with the Fed policy or the provincial policy. The political will is clear, or if I've got weaknesses, I'm the opposite. I might find some innovative ideas. Like on the webinar, they were talking about they were really welcoming innovative ideas like modular home building and all that type of stuff. And then, of course, what are the threats? And so what you're going to find, now this is where a lot of people might not agree with me, and it's totally understandable, but it's how I would approach it, just so my psychology is good. Do I actually deserve to win? Is my situation worse than communities? If I take my word, or take the minister at his word that, hey, it's a numbers game, then really I'm like, okay, I have a housing problem. Is my housing problem worse than other applicants? And I like that because that's just something I can control, right? And what I'm not okay with is submitting an application that does not clearly articulate my need. And that is what you're responsible for. And that is making sure that application goes in and it clearly articulates your need. And guess what? For you young folks or inexperienced grant writers, this is kind of cover your butt material too, right? Like I'm getting it approved before I submitted. Like, hey, this is our situation. Do you agree? And they're like, yes, I agree. Council, do you agree? Yeah, we agree. And then it's not falling on you. And in a way, and again, I'm embellishing here a little bit, but not really. Kind of. But I'd say if I lost, I would turn to council and say, congratulations, Canada has a homeless crisis. But under your strong leadership, we are currently in the top half of municipalities in the country. Only the bottom of the barrel municipalities were funded in this round, and that's not us. I'm kind of trying to be half joking here, but you can see the way I think about it, which is I put together a strong application gathering the facts. The minister says, I'm going by facts. According to our facts, there's places that have more needs. And that to me, I can live with, but I can't live with being vague. Bear with me as I try to, walk you through. We're kind of going through how I think about it, right? You may think about it different. Now I'm going to build something what's called a win card. And a win card is basically something like this, like just a short document, maybe a page, maybe two, of what I need to do to win. And I keep it really close. It's really driving me. So the goal is to be able to win it on a napkin. Like I always like to win my grant applications on a napkin. And the way you do that is through research. Your research is done. You can look at your key points on a short piece of paper and say, this is how we're going to win. And then it could be local need. And here's some resources for you, some tips. I could say our need is stronger, our partnerships, but it takes time to build these partnerships, to get quotes. So you've got to be early, right? Maybe an indigenous community or something. It takes time. So you've got to really get started early. And that goes back to point one, which I was around the drive. And then outcomes. So I would be very, very detailed on this. And so what this looks like is I'm reading the guidelines detailed over and over, verifying packs, getting partnerships finalized, and policy voted on. Now, that's a lot, right? If you're writing just an expression of interest. So this is where grant writing is kind of tricky. It's like the grant needs to be basically written, in my opinion, before you can submit a clear EOI. Because how else are you going to have a strong expression of interest if you don't put in there, this is our need, these are our partners, we think it's a strong application, we'd like to move forward. But it's front loaded with the work. You with me? So if anyone ever says, how long does an expression of interest take? Answer, it can take a long time. It can take there's other parts, but you've really got to get something like this where you've got to gather facts. It can take time. Now, the rest of them are a little bit faster here, and then we'll take some questions if you've got any, and we'll send you on your way. But I like to talk about this while we'll win. And take a look at this page. Take this, just click on this. I'll put this in the chat for you. Click on that right there. You don't have to dig very far before you find this. Law 10 updated, and it'll be similar with the new grant, right? Best practices. You come down here, there you go. Have a look at that. And then it gets into and it talks about this. Now, obviously, you got to cross-reference that with the new program. But I can't tell you the number of times over the years that the grant agencies will give these golden tips, and the people writing grants didn't take time up front to see that it was there. And so a lot of, I call it grant research in writing, not grant writing, because if you can do this, you're going to significantly increase your chances of winning. So grant writing, no. And you're just gathering facts. So if you don't think, oh, I'm not a great writer, well, just know, this thing's going to write itself as you start gathering this stuff. Then I'll also have a list of why we'll lose. And I will want to address these, right? I pulled these from like reasons why they were lost. Vague outcomes was the main one, which is kind of, if you go back to the quote I showed you with 50% lost, and most people are winning with vague outcomes, you can hopefully start to get more confident now where you're like, oh, wow, just by doing my due diligence and getting ready, I'm building a strong application and getting those points like policy and stuff sorted. Anyways, I'll let you go through this on your time, but there's a number of points there. I want to stop on this one, and it's called an objection exercise. So I will want to know why I'm not going to win. Like what are strong reasons why the government would reject us? And I'll list them and I'll get answers to them. And I strongly recommend you do that. And in this exercise, from what I could tell as I prepared for this, it's pretty obvious. Some of them are pretty obvious. Your need isn't strong enough, or your policies aren't right. But I feel, especially for you new grant writers, this is where managing expectations is a big deal, right? Like you want to be able to say, hey, early in the process, there's a couple red flags here. We cannot, we're not aligned here. Let's get that up the chain, if you will, and then to council potentially. But to do that effectively at the last minute is not fun. So it's really important that you spend some time digging in and saying, hey, these are 3 things that we've got to get sorted. Send it up the chain. I'm telling you, if you can develop this habit, you're going to do really well. You're going to be someone that's dependable and trustworthy. Again, I would even pull some of these nuggets here and say, look, we've got to get this sorted out. And I would also, if possible, you'll know how to do this better than I would, but I would know what I'm going to do here. So either we're going to align with it, we're not going to align, we're going to be a maybe. And then usually I know before I submit a grant if I'm going to win it. So I feel like probably if I was in your shoes, if they were against zoning, if they were against this or that, I would know, look, why are we wasting any more time on this if we're not going to do this? Or we should spend our time working with the Alberta minister to fight the feds. You know what I mean? Like I would just get my head around the probability that I'm going to win, and that's communicated, and whether or not we should not do it. Because you know what it's like well, probably not, but soon you're going to realize people are going to say, oh, we should apply. What do we have to lose? Well, you have a lot to lose. It can take a lot of time. And you also, if, in the veterans I'd like to know what you think on this too, but by communicating, look, we are offside here. Our chances of winning this are very low. And then you find out 6 months later you didn't get it. It's nice to have that document to say, as expected, we didn't win it for these likely reasons. and it just covers you. Because sometimes people forget, people leave, people change, and they're like, why did we lose it? And they lay, hey, it's the new person that doesn't have much experience in grant. It's their fault. And then pre-application. So I'm gathering this. Once I've gathered the facts, there's no hoping, wishing, begging, demanding, right? If you can get none of that, it'll lead to no worries. So put bluntly, I would want to know all the facts, and I'm fine if another community with more actual needs beats me this time. And this is just one of those truths that I'm like, I'm okay with that. Putting forward my best effort. If someone has more needs than me at this time, that's fine. Again, I'm not okay with not doing my best and having vague. And this is that sort of congratulations line. I just put it again here to kind of reinforce what I was talking about, which is like, if I'm going to lose, it's because of that. It's not because of us being like doing a good job, not because, I didn't work hard and put together an application. Finally, last 2 points I want to say here is, I would start once I had all that down and clear. I would start to begin to write. I would meet the grant agency if possible for any clarifications by attending their webinars in this case, I think, or following up with the contacts. And I'm getting all that out. And this is the thing I just mentioned at the end, but I think it's very important for new people. I always like when I submit a grant to give a probability score. Like when I'm writing with a client, I'm thinking, I think we're about 80% likely to win, and here's why. If we don't lose, it's probably one of these reasons. And it's just good to have a documented trail on this as you go. So with that, these are all available for you. We could have done many different things. We could have had this is this program, but we just gave them to you. So all the grants are there, the fact sheet's there, this document's there. And hopefully that can just give you confidence in writing grants moving forward. Thank you for that. Jeff?
Thank you, David. Just looking here, not a lot going on in the chat and nothing in the Q&A box, but if people do have questions, please feel free to throw them somewhere. Thank you, Sandy. But I'm just giving a minute here. People do have questions. We're happy to turn them over to you to try and answer. If they don't, maybe we give people a few minutes of their day back.
Yeah. Has anyone here, just in the chat, has anyone here written a housing grant yet? You got anyone working on try to get a general sense of nice. Jeff will put that in the doc. Nice. Did any of those points resonate with you? Because I'm building this, I'm like taking this from my perspective. I'm just wondering if some of those points resonated with you. It's a different kind of format, right? Like I could have been like, here are the 3 grants, here's this, but I wanted to get into sort of helping you get your head around grants. If not, just give us feedback at the end. We can deliver these in many different formats as well. Thanks, Sandy. All right, Jeff, maybe we give people some of their day back.
Yeah, nothing in the chat box. So I guess you covered everything in your presentation.
Okay, great.
Perfect.
Okay, good stuff. Enjoy. And the big thing I think for these people, it's just going forward. It's just, I know a big one is just make sure you're taking action early on and managing expectations. All right, gather those facts, and I think you'll do great.
Awesome.
Okay, great stuff. All right, well, let us know in the chat, in the survey, folks, if there's anything. Be sure and stay tuned to watching the Gazette. There's going to be some cool updates coming there. You get that, so make sure you sign up for it. You've got a complimentary membership as well. Okay, Jeff. Well, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
See you, everybody. Enjoy
Bye.
lunch. Bye.